Happy Halloweeny, gals and guys. I kind of made a mistake last year with YouTube, and this video is YouTube Halloween movies, free to stream for you. Last year, I added movies that not necessarily the uploader had the right to upload, and those are no longer available. So I changed those links from last year to Amazon Prime links, so at least you can go to the movie and rent it. So this year, I'm going to make sure that these are movies that are legitimately uploaded. And I'm not saying any of these movies from any of these platforms or any of these streaming services don't go offline or stop being free, because that does happen frequently. At the time of viewing, they are free, and I am watching and streaming them at the time. So you kind of got to Google, you kind of got to look to see if they're not necessarily, the link doesn't necessarily work below, then you got to do a little search. But anyways, at least you get the review, okay? So let's get into it, shall we? All right, let's get through this part as I do it in every beginning of my movie review videos. Here are the free streaming services you can find online that offer free streaming movies and television shows. In the description is where I post the current free streaming movie links. At least they were free at the time of reviewing the movie. You can also comment below and tell me your thoughts on the films being spotlighted, or perhaps even recommend your own. Here are the 5 free streaming films we'll be covering this time out. In this edition of My Media Helpers Entertainment Online Halloween Reviews, we are going to focus on the streaming service YouTube, as already mentioned. Cool, short and sweet, and we got all the line items checked off. Let's hit YouTube reviews. Yoga Hosers is a 2016 American comedy horror film written and directed by Kevin Smith. It is a spin-off of Smith's 2014 horror film Tusk, which I reviewed in the this year's Pluto reviews, and stars Smith's daughter Harley Quinn Smith, Lily Rose Depp, and her father Johnny Depp. The second film in Smith's True North trilogy, it had its world premiere on January 24th at the 2016 Sundance Film Festival before being released on September 2nd of 2016 by Invincible Pictures. The film was a commercial flop and was universally panned by critics and audiences who viewed it as a low point in Smith's career. Smith revealed before the release of Tusk that he had written a spin-off film called Yoga Hosers, which would feature the cast from Tusk. The title came from a remark Scott Mosier made during an early 2014 segment of the S-Modcast, the podcast he co-hosts with Smith. Smith brought up fanciful quotes attributed to Simon Mecki, an Edmonton yoga instructor whose home had recently been raided by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who recovered an artwork stolen from the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts in 2011 there. Mosier imagined the RCMP saying, "Open up, Yoga Hoser," as they knocked on the door. After it became a catchphrase among the podcast listeners, Smith announced it would be the title of his next film. The character of Yogi Bear in the film is also based on descriptions of Mecki in the media. In August of 2014, it was revealed Yoga Hosers would be an action-adventure and the second in the True North trilogy. The film includes the entire cast of Tusk, including Depp's daughter, Lily Rose, and Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn, which I already mentioned. And they reprise their roles as clerks from Tusk. Tony Hale, Natasha Lyonne, Austin Butler, Adam Brody, Tyler Posey, and Jason Mewes also appear. Starstream Entertainment helped finance and produce the film, while XYZ Films co-produced. In September of 2014, it was revealed Haley Joel Osment and Genesis Rodriguez had joined the cast as well, and it was later revealed Kevin Smith would portray a Bratzy. Those are the antagonist villains of the movie. Comic book writer Stan Lee had a cameo appearance, his second in a Smith film after 1995's Mallrats. Thomas Ashley put up 25% of the equity to create the film and was an executive producer. So I'm not sure if this was a vanity project for Kevin Smith's daughter where she acted. She's a fine actress and she sang a song in the movie. Who knows? This movie is fucking terrible. I would think if it was a vanity project, he would put his daughter in a better film. I think Smith can stop his True North trilogy with the second movie and go make Clerks 10. Cube is a 1997 Canadian independent science fiction horror film directed and co-written by Vincenzo Natali, a product of the Canadian Film Centre's first feature project. Nicole Dubois, Nikki Dagny, David Hewlett, Andrew Miller, Julian Richings, Wayne Robson, and Maurice Dean Wint star as individuals trapped in a bizarre and deadly labyrinth of cube-shaped rooms. Cube has gained notoriety and a cult following for its surreal atmosphere and Kafkaesque setting, I have no idea what the hell that is, and concept of industrial cube-shaped rooms. The film received generally positive reviews and led to a series of films. An American remake currently on hold is in development at Lionsgate, and a Japanese remake was released in 2021. 5 desperate people, Quentin, Worth, Holloway, Levin, and Renz, meet in another identical room. None of them knows how or why they arrived. Quentin, who had been exploring, warns everyone that some room contains traps. Rains, a convict who has escaped 7 prisons, assumes the traps are triggered by motion detectors. He tests each room by throwing one of his boots first. The maze is beset by frequent tremors. Levin notices numbers inscribed into the narrow passageways between rooms. Renz enters a room that he thinks to be safe and is killed when he is sprayed in the face with acid. This indicates that each trap is triggered by different sensors. An episode of the original Twilight Zone television series, 5 Characters in Search of an Exit, which first aired December 22nd of 1961, was reportedly an inspiration for the film. Another film which acted as inspiration was Alfred Hitchcock's Lifeboat, which was shot entirely in a lifeboat and no actor standing at any point. Director Vincenzo Natali did not have confidence in securing enough money to make the film. Before trying to pitch his idea, he realized that the costs could be kept low by using a single set that substituted as many, therefore needing only a single location with the actors moving around. The decision to go with a single set led to the inspiration to create a film centered around a maze. A set with a cube and a half was built off the floor to allow the surroundings to be lit from behind all walls of the cube. Natali mentioned that the set itself was the most expensive element of the entire film. Though Natali had the initial inspiration to make a film set entirely in hell in 1990, it was not until 1994 when he was working as a storyboard artist assistant at Canada's Nelvana Animation Studio that he had completed the first script for Cube. The initial draft had a more comedic tone and featured serial images, a cannibal edible moss growing on the walls, and a monster that roamed the cube. Roommate and childhood filmmaking partner Andrei Bzelik helped Natali strip the center idea, people avoiding deadly traps in a maze, down to its essence. Scenes that took place outside of the cube were jettisoned, and the identity of the victims themselves changed. In some drafts, they were accountants, and in others, criminals, with the implication being that their banishment to the cube was part of a penal sentence. One of the most important dramatic changes was the complete removal of food and water from the scenario. This created a sense of urgency for escape. Casting started with friends of Natali, and budget limitations allowed for just a single day of script reading prior to shooting, as it was filmed relatively quickly with the actors who were well prepared. There are no known bloopers or outtake reels in existence. The film was shot in Toronto, Ontario, on a budget of $350 Canadian in just 21 days, although other sources put the figure at $375,000 Canadian. Natali considered the figure to be deceptive as they deferred payment on goods and services while they were able to get the special effects completed at no cost. The warehouse used was situated near a train line, and noise generated from the rumbles by passing trains was incorporated into the film as the sound of the cubes moving. To change how each cube looked, some scenes were shot in wide lens, while others may be long lens and lit with different colors to give the illusion that characters were moving through the maze. Only one cube is mentioned, with each of its sides measuring 14 feet in length was actually built, with only one working door that could actually support the weight of the actors. The colors of the room was changed by sliding panels. Since this was a time-consuming procedure, the film was not shot in sequence. All shots taking place in rooms of a specific color were shot at one time. It was intended that there would be 6 colors of rooms to match the recurring theme of 6 throughout the film. 5 sets of gel panels plus pure white. However, the budget did not stretch to the 6th gel panel, and so there are only 5 room colors in the film. Another partial cube was made for shots requiring the point of view of standing in one room and looking into another. So the film was fine. It looked exactly what it cost. You knew to save on the budget. Only the one set was built. That wasn't hard to figure out. To me, it looked like an episode of some sci-fi series shot in Canada. It looked like an episode of like Stargate SG-1 or a CW superhero show. It looked cheap. The story was something you would see in a lesser Star Trek episode. Again, it was just fine. It was disposable entertainment, something to watch in a pinch. I guess check it out if you've already seen all the other movies I reviewed. The movie was very uneventful. It was very blah. What in the hell did I just watch? Leprechaun is a 1993 American horror film written and directed by Mark Jones. It stars Warwick Davis in the title role and Jennifer Aniston in her film debut. Davis plays a vengeful leprechaun who believes a family has stolen his pot of gold. As he hunts them, they attempt to locate his gold to mollify him. The film was originally meant to be more of a straight horror film, but Davis injected humor into his role. Reshoots also added increased gore to appeal to older audiences. It was the first film produced in-house by Trimark to be theatrically released and grossed $8.6 million in North America against a budget of less than $1 million. Reviews of the release were negative, geez, I wonder why, but it spawned a series of films. Mark Jones, the writer-director, had a career in American television shows. Desiring to make a film, he decided that a low-budget horror film was his best opportunity. Jones was inspired by the Lucky Charms commercial to create a leprechaun character, only his twist was to turn the character into an antagonist. Jones was further influenced by the film Critters, who featured a small antagonist. Jones brought the concept to Trimark, who were looking to get into film production and distribution. Leprechaun became the first film produced in-house by Trimark to be theatrically released. Entertainment Weekly quoted the budget at just under $1 million. In an interview with Fangoria, Jones stated that he began writing the script in 1985 and spent a long time developing the leprechaun character, which he initially envisioned as a horrible, murderous creature, but which became more comedic and developed character before filming began. Warwick Davis, who had experienced a dry spell after playing the protagonist in Willow, liked the script and was excited to play against type. Jennifer Aniston, who was an unknown at the time, impressed Jones, and he fought to have her cast. Shooting occurred from October 28th to December 3rd of 1991 and beginning at Valencia Studios, where Terminator 2 Judgment Day had recently finished production. Several violent scenes were filmed at the Big Sky Ranch, where Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons were shot. Davis later said it felt a little blasphemous. Davis performed most of his own stunts. For the scene where Davis chases Aniston in a wheelchair, Aniston had to run in slow motion so that Davis could keep up with her, as he had trouble manipulating the wheels. The film was initially more of a straightforward horror film, but Davis sought to add more comedic elements. Jones agreed with this tonal shift, and they shot it as a horror comedy. Several scenes had to be reshot after the producers insisted that the film be more gorier to appeal to that older audience. Gabe Bartelis performed the makeup effects. Trimark contacted Bartelis to produce a sample. Bartelis' earlier efforts were not to his liking, and he pushed the design in a more grotesque direction, as that was what he wanted to see on the screen as a horror fan. Bartelo's design impressed Trimark, and he got the account. Applying the makeup took 3 hours, and taking it off took another 40 minutes. Davis described the experience as not a pleasant sensation, I'm sure. To pass the time while the makeup was being applied, Davis said he had bizarre conversations with Bartelis, with whom he got along well. Davis was conscious of the need to stay relaxed and not move, and he channeled his confidence that the makeup effects were properly applied into his acting. For some reason, Leprechaun was followed by 5 sequels. Leprechaun 2, 1994, Leprechaun 3, 1995, Leprechaun 4 in Space, okay, 1997, Leprechaun in the Hood, 2000, and Leprechaun Back to the Hood, 2003, okay. In 2014, a reboot Leprechaun Origins was released. After Leprechaun 2's theatrical gross disappointed Trimark, Leprechaun 3 was released direct-to-video. Origins was theatrically released. Leprechaun Returns was released on DVD on December 11th of 2018, serving as a direct sequel to the original film. The stars Lyndon Parco as Lubdan, I guess, the Leprechaun, and Mark Holton as Ozzy Jones was reprised the role from the first film and directed by Steven Kostanski. I know the first film and the follow-up sequels have some type of cult following. I'm not sure exactly why. Warwick Davis had about as much of an Irish accent as I do as I narrate this. Everything was me gold, me this, me that. Just because you use me in the beginning of every sentence does not make you sound Irish. It kind of makes you sound stupid.
I love Warwick Davis. He was great in one of my favorite films of all time, Willow. Life's Too Short was a funny series. His MC duties for Lucasfilm are always entertaining. Him as a leprechaun, not so much. Jennifer Aniston was young and beautiful and sexy. It wasn't exactly difficult watching her for 90 minutes. I just don't get the appeal of Leprechaun and what screams Halloween more than a fucking Leprechaun. It was trash, and I certainly won't make any type of effort to see any of the others. Methinks me would rather spend me time watching something else. Cell. Just don't seem to be having any luck with movies this time out. In my Voodoo video, I watched and reviewed 1408, both starring John Cusack and Sam L. Jackson, and now I've come upon another film with both of them. Let's see if lightning strikes twice. What it turned out to be, basically, was just a zombie movie. Not much different than the million other zombie movies that already exist. Cell is a 2016 American science fiction horror film based on a 2006 novel of the same name by Stephen King. The film is directed by Todd Williams, produced by John Cusack, with a screenplay by King and Adam Alika, I guess. The film stars John Cusack, Sam L. Jackson, Isabella Furman. The film was released on June 10th of 2016 to video on demand prior to a limited release schedule for July 8th of 2016. Cell is the second film adaptation of a King story to co-star Cusack and Jackson after the 2007 film 1408. The film's story follows a New England artist struggling to reunite with his young son after a mysterious signal broadcast over the global cell phone network turns the majority of his fellow humans into mindless, vicious animals. Dimension Films announced in March of 2006 that Ali Roth would direct the project after finishing Hostel Part 2, but Roth exited the project in 2009. Roth is quoted as saying there was just sort of a difference in opinion on how to make the film and what the story should be, and there's a different direction the studio wants to go with it. It was very friendly because it's the Weinsteins, Bob and Harvey Weinstein. Oh God, Harvey Weinstein. They made Inglourious Bastards and we're all friends. I said I'm not really interested in doing the film this way. You guys go ahead and I'm going to make my own films. I've also learned that I really am only interested in directing original stories that I write, and that's another thing I learned through the whole process. So somewhere in between Harvey Weinstein sexually harassing women, the three parted ways. Following Roth's departure, Screen Rant noted that the film faded into the background. However, in October of 2012, John Cusack was announced as the first actor to join the film, followed by the selection of Todd Williams as director in early 2013. In November of 2013, Samuel L. Jackson was cast as Tom McCourt. Isabel Furman was announced as Alice on February 5th of 2014, and Stacy Keach was cast in an unnamed role of a headmaster the following day. The film was shot over 25 days in January 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia. The film received negative reviews from critics upon its release for being poorly crafted and lacking suspense. I suppose you could say the end of the film gives the viewer an ambiguous conclusion, like, say, Invasion of the Body Snatchers or many other films in that niche zombie genre. There's a great opening that takes place in an airport where the people answering their cell phones turn into raging killing machines. But the rest of the film is just Cusack and Jackson walking, and then sometimes running, meeting people along the way, killing people along the way. It's a zombie movie. There's really nothing fantastic about it. It's empty calories. It tasted good, but I'm sure I'll forget about it in a day or two. Believe it or not, I have never, ever seen a Child's Play movie and know very little about the demonic toy Chucky beyond the fact that it is supposed to be a toy and some serial killer spirit has taken it over. Beyond that, that's all the knowledge I have on the entire franchise. I know there was a series of movies, I know there was a remake, I know there was a streaming service somewhere that streams a show. I guess it's going on its second season, just bits and pieces over the years. So this is the year, this is the time, this is when I finally sat down and watched the original Child's Play. So Child's Play is a 1988 American supernatural horror film directed by Tom Holland, from a screenplay by Holland, Don Mancini, and John Lafia, and based on a story by Mancini. It is the first film in the Child's Play series and the first installment to feature the character Chucky. It stars Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, Alex Vincent, Dinah Manoff, Tommy Swerdlow, and Jack Colvin, with Brad Dourif as Chucky. Its plot follows a widowed mother who gives a doll to her son, unaware that the doll is possessed by the soul of a serial killer. Child's Play was released in the United States on November 9th of 1988 by MGM UA Communications. It grossed more than $44 million against a production budget of $9 million. Along with the film gaining a cult following, the box office success spawned a media franchise that includes a series of 6 sequels, merchandise, comic books, a reboot film of the same name released in June of 2019, and a TV series that began airing October 2021. Kind of already mentioned all that. Child's Play was distributed by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, although the rights to the series were sold to Universal Pictures in 1990, beginning with the sequel Child's Play 2. MGM retained the rights to the first film and, as such, distributed the 2019 reboot. According to an interview with Mental Floss screenwriter Don Mancini, first conceived of the concept while studying as a film major at the University of California, Los Angeles. Mancini was inspired by the consumerism of the 1980s and the effect of marketing on children based on his experience with his father, an advertising executive. Mancini's troubled relationship with his own father and his experiences of alienation as a gay man caused him to center the script around a child with a single mother and no father figure. He was also influenced by the Cabbage Patch Kids, Trilogy of Terror, Magic Poltergeist, the character Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Twilight Zone episode Living Doll. The film's executive producer, David Kirshner, who would produce all 7 films in the Chucky series, claimed in the same interview that he had wanted to make a film about a killer doll, don't we all, after reading the Dollhouse Murders. The director, Tom Holland, has also affirmed that the My Buddy dolls played a role in Chucky's design. Mancini's original script was titled Batteries Not Included, with the title later changed to Blood Buddy after it was discovered that a different film with the same name was being made. During production, it was nearly retitled again in order to avoid confusion with Sidney Lumet's 1972 horror film of the same name. It would have featured a doll filled with fake blood that would allow it to bleed if played with roughly, and it would have come alive after Andy mixed his own blood with the doll's. The doll would have represented Andy's suppressed rage and would have targeted his enemies. Mancini's original script would have been a whodunit story, which dealt with the effect of advertising and television on children. Mancini's original script was also written to toy with the audience a bit longer, to toy with them, get it? Making it ambiguous whether Andy or Chucky was the killer. Charles Band expressed interest in filming the script and later produced the Puppet Master franchise. The script was accepted by United Artists after studio president Tony Thamopoulos, and MGM UA Communications chairman Lee Rich realized that it could begin a long-running series. After UA purchased the script, it was rewritten by John LaFia to make the character of Andy more sympathetic, and after Kirshner expressed doubt that parents would buy their children a doll with fake blood. In LaFia's rewritten script, Charles Lee Ray's soul would have been transferred to the doll after being executed by electric chair as it was being manufactured on an assembly line. The script featured the doll factory where Chucky was produced as a location, which would be recycled for the second film. The film used various ways to portray Chucky, including radio-controlled animatronics operated by up to 9 puppeteers, extras of short stature, and child actors. Kevin Yager was in charge of the puppetry for the film. Various animatronics and cosmetics were used for every scene. Throughout the film, Chucky transitions from appearing as a normal toy to appearing more human, with his hairline receding throughout the film. The film created multiple Chucky animatronics, such as a flailing tantrum Chucky, a walking Chucky, and a stationary Chucky. The animatronic doll's face was controlled via remote control through a rig capturing facial movement on puppeteer Brock Winkles. For some scenes, Holland used short-statured actors and children, such as Ed Gale and Alex Vincent's sister Ashley, with forced perspective sets. Because some people are complete idiots and think they know what's better for everyone else, during the initial release, a large crowd of protesters formed at the main entrance of MGM, calling for a ban on the film because they claimed it would incite violence in children. Child's Play 3 was cited as the inspiration for 2 murders, which took place in the United Kingdom in December of 1992 and February of 1993, respectively, the murder of Suzanne Capper and the murder of James Bulger. In the Suzanne Capper case, the 16-year-old was forced to listen to recordings of the gang leader repeating the catchphrase, "I'm Chucky, wanna play?" Tom Holland, in response to both murders, defended the film, stating that viewers of horror movies could only be influenced by their content if they were unbalanced to begin with. Exactly. The film was followed by several sequels, including Child's Play 2, 1990, Child's Play 3, 1991, Bride of Chucky, 98, Seed of Chucky, 2004, Curse of Chucky, 2013, Cult of Chucky, 2017, and a television series titled Chucky in 2021. A reboot of the franchise was announced by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to be in development beginning in July of 2018. Lars Kleiberg served as director from the script by Tyler Burton Smith. The film was co-produced by Seth Grahame-Smith, David Katzenberg, and Aaron Schmidt. The adaptation featured a group of kids who come into contact with a modern-day high-tech version of the Good Guys doll. The film starred Gabrielle Bateman as Andy Barclay and Aubrey Plaza as his mother Karen, and the film was released on June 21st of 2019. This is a good movie, as demonic toy horror movies go. It's no Leprechaun, though. Just kidding, Leprechaun sucked. I'd actually make an effort to watch the sequels to Child's Play to see if they hold up to the original. I liked it a lot. Much better than I would imagine a movie would be about a killer doll. I thought the performances were great. The story was pretty kooky, but it held my interest. And acting was great. The effects were great, and everything was cool about it. It was an 80s movie, and it sure seemed that way, but I loved it. Go watch it this Halloween season.
So when it comes to YouTube, all I do is go to the main site. I go here to movies and shows. And then if you scroll down, you'll see free to watch movies. And you can see more. And then you just scroll down to free movies, and you'll see horror movies as you're going down. And you'll see other ones like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. That's a cool one. And they do have a lot of pretty good movies if you scroll down, and a lot of horror movies. I also go free horror movies, and then you have a lot of theirs. I just make sure that like Popcorn Flicks is a legit service that have legit movies that upload them with permission. So that's how I go about and watch free streaming movies on the YouTubes. So check it out, horror fans. Oh yeah, please subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate that, and certainly share this with any horror aficionados that you may not horror aficionados, horror aficionados. Yeah, and then subscribe, like if you liked it, like if you didn't like it, and hit the bell for updates. And I appreciate you as always, and I'll catch you tomorrow, which is Peacock. All right, bye-bye.